Just waiting for one more minute for everyone to dial in, and then I'll get started just after 2 o'clock. Well, while we're just waiting for everyone to continue to come in, I just want to welcome everybody here today. My name's Ali. I'm the Program Manager here from Better Business Partnership in North Sydney. Thank you very much for taking the time to come to the information session about the New South Wales Plastics Ban for businesses and what you need to do as a business. So this will be one of several information sessions that we're putting on over the next few months for businesses in our 3 LGAs, which I'll explain later, to find out really what you need to do to be prepared for the National Plastics Ban. So before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please put you'll see that there's a chat function and a Q&A function. So please put your questions in the questions and answers, not in the chat, but feel free to put your name and where you're from in the chat function so we know who's on the call. First off, I'd like to acknowledge the Camaragal people as being the traditional owners of the local area I'm on today, and I'd like to acknowledge their continued connection to country. I pay respects to Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islander elders, past, present, and emerging. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which you all work today, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this meeting. So I just want to tell you a little bit about BBP before, if you don't know about it. It started in 2009 and is a council-funded program designed to support and help local businesses within the Ku-ring-gai, Willoughby and North Sydney council areas to help business become more successful through sustainability. And we work with pretty much every industry type, typically small to medium size, and we support them through education, helping to find solutions and provide advice on ways businesses can make operational improvements to achieve their environmental and social gains, many of which result in cost savings through energy, water, waste, and reduction programs, ultimately long-term success. These are our program managers. As I said, we operate across Ku-ring-gai, North Sydney and Willoughby. And we also have Leanne, who's a fantastic PR, and Amanda, our coordinator. And just quickly, just so you understand what the badges look like, these are our 9 areas of sustainability. So it's a broad range of sustainability program, which is fantastic. And today, obviously, with the plastics ban, we're looking under the badge Bye Bye Plastic. So we've got Ebony today, who's the policy manager from the National Retail Association, who's very kindly offered her time to be able to help you provide a very thorough understanding of what the plastics ban means for you, and also to be able to answer all your burning questions at the end. So Ebony will give a talk about what the plastics ban is and the timescales involved, and then we will start answering your Q&A after that. So, and if you don't know about the National Retail Association, I'm sure Ebony would explain more, but it's sort of abbreviated the NRA, and it's Australia's most representative retail industry association, which represents over about 39,000 outlets in every category of retail. So Ebony, over to you.
Thanks so much, Ali, and thanks for having me here today. Now I'm going to try and share my screen. Yes, and that. And I'm just going to change the view because I know I often have this in mini for everyone. Okay, Ali, if you can give me a thumbs up. Did it work? Excellent, fantastic. Yeah, thanks for having me today. As Ali said, I'm going to go through the New South Wales single-use plastics ban. This is going to be a breakneck speed run through for those that may not have much awareness about the ban. Some of you may. And just to let you know what kind of support and advice is available. So it's going to be a very quick run through. And like Ali said, just to give you a bit of context, yes, we are a retail association and a not-for-profit, but what probably makes us most unique is that we've been involved with plastic bans and helping governments and business through plastic bans since about 2017, when Queensland introduced their ban on lightweight plastic bags. So currently I'm working across 5 different state bans. Yes, I know it'd be great if it was all one. It would make my life a lot easier. But currently there are 5 different plastics bans in current stages across Australia. So that's also where some businesses and community organisations and councils may be getting a bit of confusion too, because they've heard of one in another state. So I'm here to tell you all about New South Wales. If you do need to reach out to me and my team about any of the other bans, we live and breathe this stuff. So we have a whole team across Australia that are actually walking the streets and educating retailers. So we're not just about retailers, it's hospitality, it's community groups, it's church, faiths, pretty much, and suppliers. So in this particular situation, we're looking after everyone other than the public. So our job is not the public. And so this is just some examples from my team on the street. When we go out, we go and take photos of all the great things that little local businesses and charities are doing. So our job is to really spread the positive word about what you're already doing. So just to be clear, this is where the separation is. I can't change the regulations. So if anyone has a problem with that, yes, you can complain to me, but I can't change them. But realistically, these are some pretty solid regulations, really well reasoned. We support them as an industry association. So I think the New South Wales government has done a really good job at planning this out, and the timing is right. Not too early, not too late. But just to understand that the public awareness campaigns and anything like that will be done by the New South Wales government. So you might be seeing TV or radio or things like that they're developing. That will come soon. Our job is to look after everyone else in terms of anyone impacted by the ban. So we're not looking after the public that are impacted by they can't get a bag anymore. But if you're a market stall, to a church fete, to a school, to a retail business or a supplier, you can come to us. And it's the same information for all of you. We are going around visiting stores face to face. We do find small businesses very hard to contact. So we're visiting 650 shopping centres and precincts this year. So going door to door. I was just out with the team. I'm in Darling Harbour at the moment, and I was just out with the team in Marrickville and Crow's Nest this morning. So our job is to really help you through this. We also have a free hotline. And the government website, so the New South Wales government has a website that you can go to, and we've helped develop a lot of the materials that are sitting on there. So our job is to kind of create things that are a bit simpler, and because we know businesses are very time poor. So I'm going to run through a really quick overview of the ban, and I'm sure you might have lots of questions, but trust me, a lot of the materials that exist already do answer all of those things. And then if you're really stuck on it, then reach out. So there's 2 stages in New South Wales. First one is the 1st of June, all lightweight plastic bags, shopping bags with handles are banned. And then I'll go into this in more detail. And then from the 1st of November is all the foodware style items that are in this ban. I will note here, I'm not going to focus on it because it's not much. There's not much that businesses and community organisations can do about it. You have to go to your manufacturer. But cotton buds, plastic cotton buds, and any kind of rinse-off personal care products with microbeads are also banned. Now, the manufacturers are really the ones who decide on that. And I think it's 99.6% of microbeads have been phased out of these products through voluntary industry codes. So not so much for topic of conversation for today, but if you're particularly affected by that, like you manufacture some goods that might be affected, reach out to us and I'll give you more information. And I will go into the one exemption that will currently apply about straws. But yeah, just reiterating, it applies to everyone. Don't think because you don't sell these goods or you give them away for free or that you're a charity, it does apply to you. Doesn't matter, you are considered a business or an activity during this. And then there's distribution centres. Distribution centres are exempt from, so if you're circulating some stock to somewhere outside of New South Wales, but just check that there's not a ban in the other jurisdictions. Now I'm just going to continue. An offence. Now, what I really want to focus on here, so obviously it's an offence to supply banned plastic items, and false or misleading information is also an offence. So, and that could be by just failing to tell someone. So suppliers really need to be aware that they can be fined a substantial amount if they fail to tell businesses or community groups or whoever is buying those products off them that those are a banned item. So that's something to try and protect businesses so you don't actually have to be an expert in everything. I will also say it is also an offence to display banned items. So that does mean you're going to be seeing some changes to people's websites. So if you've got a national business and you sell plastic spoons or something like that on it, you're going to need to take some steps to actually put something on your website to say this item is banned in New South Wales, or make sure that people in New South Wales cannot purchase that item. So this is just something extra that the New South Wales government has added compared to other states. So if you have more questions about that, we can help you through that. It will be enforced by the New South Wales EPA. They are responsible for it. Now, I will say, and this, it's not meant to scare people, but it does show that the government is very serious about this ban and it being I'm sorry about the siren going past my hotel, but these are the highest fines I have ever seen in a single-use plastics ban, which I think shows this is really strongly supported by consumers. There was a lot of consumer support for this, but you are facing, if you are a business and you kept on supplying these things and just went stuff it, you could face a fine of $55,000 for one offence. That could technically be one straw. And those penalties are doubled for a supplier or a manufacturer. So that's $110,000. Now, I haven't seen a government have to issue fines yet. Usually businesses are pretty good. And if you're struggling at all, I'd rather you reach out to us as the kind of independent in between and before the ban happens, and let us see if we can try and fix something before you're in that situation. I do believe the government will very much approach it first in that they won't run around on day one fining everybody if you're non-compliant, but they will have a strong compliance and enforcement approach to help people through it. Okay, I'm going to just, obviously you'll get these slides. There's a lot of information. All of this is on the website. Like I said, this is really just cut and paste from the existing brochures. What I'd focus on, and I'll focus just on the items that I think are really problematic for some people. These kind of bags are banned everywhere across Australia. So the lightweight plastic shopping bags. New South Wales is actually the last state to introduce this ban. And it is just the lightweight one. So I'm going to emphasize there, it's the 35 microns or less. And it is, everyone always asks me, what's a shopping bag? Okay, if it's got handles and you use it to carry goods from a business or from an event or something like that, it is a shopping bag. It is not a waste bag, a doggy waste bag, nappy bags, medical waste bags and things like that. They are not banned. Also not banned are things like produce bags that are on the roll at your butcher or your fruit and veg. Yes, that might be approached in future bans, but currently there's some real food safety and hazardous concerns around, obviously, all these types of bags I've just described as exempt. These are solely the ones that are used to transport goods. They do include online sales and home deliveries. And you must not use compostable plant-based plastic. I would recommend that people don't just look at barely complying with this ban. In that if you can get out of plastic, that would be the best long-term solution. If you can stop offering a bag and get your customers to really get used to reusable bags, that is going to give you the best long-term solution and the best financial solution. So I look at this very commercially with some retailers and businesses, and particularly charities. You don't have money to give away. Paper bags are expensive. You will be paying more if you replace like for like with a thicker plastic bag or a paper bag. you need to look at how you can reduce the consumption. So bag fees everywhere else in Australia. I don't know of anywhere else. When I come to Sydney, I get free plastic bags, and that's unheard of anywhere else in Australia. People are really used to paying for a bag now. And if anything, I would go to a fabric or reusable bag because people value them more. You can charge more for them. It is reusable and they'll use them longer. So reach out if you're unsure. Please don't go to your supplier and ask for, well, then I need a 36 micron bag. I can guarantee you it will fail because plastic is inconsistent in thickness. And I have a little tool, a little micrometer that the government uses and that measures thickness. And this is down to 1,000th of a millimeter kind of measurements here, guys. And that bag can easily drop under 35 microns if you've gone close to this thickness. So I'd be going at least, if you have to stay in plastic, go up to 50, because otherwise you are at serious risk. And I know that they'll take at least 10 measurements on that bag, not just 1 point. So I can't emphasize that enough. And please don't buy anything that says it's biodegradable, degradable, plant-based, whatever it is. If it looks and feels like plastic, it is. It might be a bioplastic. It's actually no better for the environment. I'm really sorry to break everyone's hearts, but please don't buy that stuff because it's actually making environmental issues worse. Okay, I'm going to jump to straws, stirrers, and cutlery. And Ali, feel free to hurry up if I need to rush through stuff. But straws, stirrers, and cutlery. Okay, wonderful. Straws, stirrers, and cutlery, really don't overthink it. This is rolling right across Australia. What I'll tell you, so yes, the law is you cannot use any more single-use plastic straws, stirrers, cutlery, things like that, that are utensils that you use to consume food or drink. It doesn't include your servingware that you use out the back of the kitchen, tongs and all those kinds of things. But it pretty much includes anything you're giving over to a customer in a takeaway store. It includes everything in your party wear too. So this is not unique to takeaway food outlets. You need to think, what do we do at events? What do we do for parties? All those items, whether it's in a packet or given away with food, is included in the ban. The key thing, don't try and argue it's reusable. If you're a takeaway food outlet, good luck. This is really the intention of legislation is to get people out of these disposable items. If you can't, stop offering that kind of thing. So the first choice would be, do your customers really need a straw? And do they really need cutlery? Particularly if, why are you putting cutlery in an Uber Eats bag when they're taking it home? So you're just wasting money. So that's how I need businesses and charities and everyone to think of this in how can you push this back on customers changing their behavior. Otherwise, this will cost you more and you're going to need to charge for it or compensate that somewhere. So don't just jump straight to another disposable, even though it's paper or wood. It's not necessarily a better outcome. Also watch out for, like I said, okay, so the big rule to remember right throughout the New South Wales ban, regardless of what you hear, is bioplastics are not allowed. Compostable plant-based plastics are not allowed, not just for one item, but none of these items. So I see lots of examples. I have thousands of things that tell me that have little things written all over them, PLA, PHA, all these newfangled things. Sugarcane straws always have a bioplastic glue in them. Cornstarch cutlery, it's a bioplastic. They are all banned. If it looks or feels like plastic, don't buy it or send it to us. Show us a picture, and 99% of cases I've found they are banned. So don't fall into the trap that I've seen a lot of retailers fall into. If you want the simple answer is if you really do need disposables, go paper for straws. We know customers aren't a big fans, but frankly, they're going to have to get used to it. And wood for cutlery. There is also bagasse sugarcane. So sugarcane straws are different to bagasse sugarcane. So you can get that in things like the Laxa spoon. So reach out if you need more particular instructions. Plastic plates and bowls without lids. So plastic plates, pretty straightforward. This is targeting all those kind of single-use plastic plates. Bowls, the big thing to focus on here is it's bowls without spill-proof lids. So it doesn't include, and we get asked this in every store, does it include Chinese takeaway containers? No, They are not banned at this point. A lidded bowl or a lidded container or anything lidded is not included in this ban in terms of these plastic items. That is because really we're still struggling to find technology that's heat proof, burn proof, transport proof. It's very limited in the world. We all thought it would be further along, I think, and you think there's solutions out there, but if you're not remembering too, there's no bioplastics allowed, particularly if bioplastics have nowhere to go except commercial composting facilities. They are no better in litter. So please don't pay extra for them unless they're truly home compostable. But you can't use them for bowls or plates. Trust me, it will be something that's commercially compostable only. So if it's got a lid and it's a bowl, it is not banned at this stage. It'll be reviewed in 2 years by the New South Wales government, but we think that's a reasonable amount of time to get some more options available in Australia. And to get customers starting to get used to bringing their reusable items. So where the community really needs to help here is start bringing those reusables, because otherwise it's a real shock to the system when these things disappear. So consider your reusables. Consider what you can do to encourage customers to bring their reusables. It will save you money if you don't have to give that away. But if you need to, you can use cardboard, you can use bagasse sugarcane. There are lots of options for these kinds of items. You've probably seen them around, but they will cost you more. So you need to start thinking, if you need to be savvy, you need to think about reusable will definitely cost you the least. And how are you going to get customers to take less? So even making it an option. EPS, so expanded polystyrene. So coffee cups are not banned. This is another thing that people see, this picture of a cup. Coffee cups are not banned yet. Same situation we have around the world is that it's really hard to find something that's heat proof, burn proof, and not relying on composting facilities. So industry and governments are still working on that, but this is just the foam stuff that everyone might be familiar with. I think some of the fast food restaurants like McDonald's used to have this 30 years ago and got rid of it. We just occasionally see it in a takeaway store or at a charity event because it's cheap, but it's really bad for the environment. And no matter, it can be recycled, but probably in about 3 facilities in Australia. So don't use anything in this foam kind of stuff, but it does not include things like the meat trays and things like that. It will take a little bit of time for, say, butchers to move away from those EPS meat trays, but that is coming, and that's more coming federally. But this is just those simple foodware items. So not a big stress. There's plenty of alternatives. And even if you were in EPS foam cups, you can go to a plastic cup if you really want to, but I'd start thinking about moving for the future. Get people to bring their keep cups. But once again, coffee cups are not banned, just the foam ones. So that's the ban in a nutshell. So I'm just going to go just quickly. If you haven't started doing anything already, people need to start to transition. You've got a decent amount of time in New South Wales. I think actually they've been very fair with the time frames, in that I think we've seen a bag ban coming for a long time here. So 1st of June is when bags need to go. Then all the other items are 1st of November this year. Compared to, there's another state at the moment that everything and more items is coming into effect on the 1st of July. And they've got about 10, 11 items in their ban, including cups and things like that. So I think New South Wales has been pretty reasonable with this, and there's really no excuse to just get on the phone to your supplier and get talking to them. If they don't know enough about the ban, you can send them to us and we'll help them. So if you have excess stock, please don't buy any more. But if you have excess stock, you cannot use it after the date. Sometimes there's rumors that circulate that say, oh no, you're allowed to use it if you've got an invoice saying you bought it before the date. No, never true. No government has allowed that ever. So you need to start using up that stock. If worst case is you might have to recycle some at the end, but you cannot keep using it. Contact me if you are sitting on a container load or something like that worth, because we need to know about that now. But unfortunately, there's just not many options. You need to exhaust that stock. If it's something like cutlery and things like that, sometimes you can transfer it to another state. Frankly, there's nowhere to send your bags because they're banned everywhere else in Australia and New Zealand. But if it comes down to some of your cutlery and things like that, you might be able to send it to Victoria or something. Because their ban comes in February next year. They're going to hate me. Don't flood every other state. But frankly, if you need to get it out of the state, it's what you have to do. Talk to your supplier about the best long-term options. So before you talk to a supplier, think about whether you're going to go reusable, because that would be a very different supplier to your normal packaging supplier. There's plenty of great initiatives out there like Green Caffeine, Renome, reusable cup systems, reusable container systems, bag systems like boomerang bags. There's plenty of other options out there, but talk to your supplier. They must provide you correct info. Inform your team and customers. This is really important. Go and download those posters from the website and put them up in your store as early as possible, or at your event or charity. Just let people know and you'll have a smoother transition. I find that if it's a surprise to them on the day of the ban, don't rely on waiting for a public awareness campaign and things like that. You can take this into your own hand and educate your customers and do something proactive with them. If you're going to introduce reusable bags or paper bags and you're going to charge for them, tell them a month in advance at least. And then you'll probably have a great smooth transition because they've known. What customers tend to react to is no notice. So these are all the kind of resources that are available to you. We've created these with government, so they're simplified down in that they're really designed for time poor people. They're not, if you're running a business, you don't have time to become a plastics expert. This just tells you, here's your options. There's translated material too. So everything's translating to about 15 languages. So you might want to put some posters up that suit your particular customers. There's even small little things you can put on your counter. So jump on that website and download what you want. As I said, we're running around stores, but we can't get to everyone. Even though we're going right across the state, we certainly won't hit everybody. So spread it amongst your local business. If you know about it, make sure the business next door does. We're holding online sessions. So the last Wednesday of every month, I sit in a room and on a Wednesday afternoon and take questions. So come along. It's on Eventbrite. You can get the link from the team here. So every last Wednesday, I'm there, whether one person shows up or 500. Hit us up with questions. And then we have the hotline. That's more for the really unusual queries because it is quite busy. Just be aware you might be waiting a little while. If you really need to get to us, I'd recommend email and then download those resources. So I'm sure these slides will be shared with you, but that's the essence of it. But I'd start with the website because most of your questions will be answered there. So that's a really quick run through from me. Thanks, Ali.
Thank you, Ebony. That was very, very informative. And I've been watching all the questions come back in. So I'm just going to go back to my slide and just go to Q&A. So I think some may have been on your slides, but just because of the fact that they've come up, we just want to make sure that everyone's clear on it. And a good one that came through before was for e-commerce businesses that sell on Amazon or eBay. Will those marketplaces be responsible for the products they allow to be sold on their platforms, or is it solely the seller's responsibility?
Oh, tricky. That's up to the enforcement of the New South Wales EPA. Technically, it's probably the seller that is supplying it. This is a very grey area and it's not easily solved. I have this same issue we're involved in product safety, where some very dangerous children's toys and things like that get sold by international sellers on eBay. And compared to what Australian sellers do, it can be a bit of a cowboy marketplace, but unfortunately, I don't think a lot of governments have had success in going after eBay or Amazon. I think one was successful in the US, but more work should be done there.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I mean, maybe that's something that we can move offline, and we can post probably, well, you can have maybe for your next Q&A session at the end of the month, maybe for people to drop in, and we'll certainly try and share it to the network that's joined in and registered for this talk, and we'll try and promote it through our website as well, because I think that is a very important one as we're all moving to a sort of e-commerce type platform to sell a lot of our wares. It's important to have that. Same with sort of, I guess, the Uber Eats and the, I don't know, whatever else there might be out there.
Well, they could definitely, Uber Eats could be liable too. So it's all about who's the supplier, who's handing it over to the customer, or who's delivering that to the customer, or who's distributing it. Where eBay and the marketplaces are somewhat like, okay, so the best example is the shopping center that you go on. If you get a band bag in a retailer in a shopping center, the shopping center is not going to be fined. They're not enforcers. So in a way, that's kind of eBay and Amazon are kind of like shopping centers.
Yeah.
But the individual sellers absolutely can be fined on eBay and Amazon and in a shopping center or a precinct. So you could be a standalone service station. So
okay.
Definitely applies to you, but it's just all about, you know, who's actually the one controlling it, and they will be the one who's fined. And if you find, I tell retailers to get advice from their suppliers in writing. If they truly say it's compliant, get it in writing. And same with suppliers. If your retailer's trying to buy something from you that you're trying to tell them, look, this is banned in New South Wales in 6 months, and they still want to buy a large quantity, I'd be getting something in writing from them saying they understand that.
Yeah, okay. And I think that's to be mindful as well, everyone on the call, is the fact that as Ebony was mentioning, there's a national plastics ban, but then each of the states have adopted a slightly different take on that ban and are implementing different timelines and different materials at the moment on that ban, aren't they? I think.
No, there is no national plastics ban.
Well, okay,
but it's plan
happening.
It doesn't include any of this.
Say.
Yeah, there's a national plastics plan, but it does not include these things. So yeah, we would love for this to be a federal, or at least aligned. What each state government is empowered, their environment department is empowered to do this because states look after waste, councils look after waste as well. It's where it crosses over, but federal. Federal is more looking after stewardship and things like that. But
I mean, so WA, for example, has got coffee cups containing plastic for 2023 is going to be banned, but that's not. So what I'm saying is that there are states progressing in certain products which isn't currently here, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to be under consideration later because of the fact that it's actually happening in other areas. So it's
I'd be careful just with that. Unfortunately, the only thing, yes, definitely keep your eye on things. If you can get out of plastic, great. If you can go to reusables, you're going to be at no risk in the future. But if you start to play around with bioplastics and things like that, I actually can't give you one thing that aligns between the states. And unfortunately, when it comes to things like coffee cups and things that we need to be waterproof, there is no solution in the world that doesn't have plastic or bioplastic. And if one more person shows me that lovely, truly eco cup out there that says it's plastic free, which isn't, I don't know of a plastic-free coffee cup in the world. So don't believe what's written on the product. So it is tricky. So I imagine coffee cups have been held off for New South Wales because we are definitely seeing it being very tricky on the West. Because we've also got a worldwide paper shortage, which is nice and fun.
Yes, there's a lot of things being impacted at the moment on supply chain, isn't there? Well, actually, just very quickly talking about coffee cups. I mean, you promoted in a previous talk, Ebony, but BBP, Benefit Business Partnership, is actually partnered with Green Caffeine, which is a swap cup system, a reusable swap cup system, and we've just launched that, and it is more information on that is in our website, and please contact your program manager to find out more. That's a free program for the cafes and for the customers to be able to, rather than remembering to bring your keep cup, it's about being able to just pretty much go to a cafe and just order it order a coffee as per normal, and rather than using a single-use coffee cup, you can just get a coffee cup off the counter from the green caffeine one, and just take that away and return later. You've got 45 days to be able to return it.
It's
so
like a lay-by library type system.
Yes.
So you don't have to remember your own cup, but you can pick one up from anywhere and drop it off anywhere. And that's brilliant. We need more of them. Retailers would wholeheartedly embrace it, as long as all those schemes work together.
Yeah, so please, I won't talk any more on that, because it's more about what is going to be banned. So we've got a good question about plant-based bags. So cassava bags that are about to become available in Australia wide, are these banned?
It's a bioplastic. Looks or feels like plastic, it's a bioplastic. Whether it's made of corn, cassava, palm fronds, sugarcane, anything like that, if it is still turned into like you'll see it, it's still polymerized. The actual technical thing is it's still a polymer, not even plastic. So yes, all of these have been chemically modified to be polymers, and yes, they are included in the ban. Okay. But if you're talking about a reusable, this is all about single use. If you're talking about a reusable Hessian bag or something like that, so yeah, I don't want to suggest that all plant-based bags are banned. It's plant-based plastic.
I call it plasticized plant-based materials. So yeah, as you say, if it looks like plastic, feels like plastic, it's probably plastic. So are there any hygiene problems with customers supplying their own containers for takeaway food? Well, I guess I can answer that one. I mean, there can be, but as a retailer, as somebody dealing with food, you have with keep cups being a reusable keep cup type program. Yeah, you have the right to be able to, if it looks dirty, absolutely, you have the right to be able to refuse it. But I guess there is, as much as it is for you to be handling the containers behind the counter potentially, so there are ways. Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
No, that's all right. What were you going to say? But
yes, I think some hygiene things are overblown in the media in terms of, I think bags are safe and things like that. Usually retailers are just trying to be overcautious. And yes, they do have liability that if that product gives you salmonella, and hurts you, yes, they are liable. So they will be overcautious and can refuse things. They don't have to offer reusable. A lot of them are trying. There are a few complications, so please don't get mad at businesses if they're still struggling with that. I know some butchers I was talking to yesterday were trying it, and they realized that they kind of put your thing on there, they can correct it on the scale, and then they were realizing often, we all go, oh, I want kind of like a bunch of mince. They can't, and we've always put too much in. They can't take that back out and put it with their rest because it's then considered contaminated. So their food safety laws prevent it. And I was like, I never thought of that. So there's some complications we've got to work out. Okay, so we're going to need some other process in between. And there's still, we definitely, you'll probably see a lot of supermarkets running trials of this. We're seeing very low take up. And we've also got to factor in that we've got to comply with food safety laws, health directives, and weights and measures. So anything that is a weighed item is proving a bit tricky. But generally, if a business is open to taking your reusable container, we'd love to see more of that. And I'd probably love to see more green caffeine style systems that do containers as well, because I think that would actually be the most hygienic way forward, because they do a hot wash on it.
Absolutely.
And I don't realistically think that 100% of the population are going to be carrying around a whole picnic kit with them every time they leave the house. We can't even get half of them to bring their bags. So I think we've got to be realistic.
Yeah. On talking of butchers, though, I've got my local butcher. They're in Harris Farm. They use unbleached butcher's paper to lay the product on. So you don't necessarily give your container until right at the end. So they'll weigh it all, tear it all, calculate the price, and then they sort of put it into your container. So, and then that's 100%, can just literally go in your compost bin or just breaks down. So that's an alternative as a thought. So what consumers? So
Can you dob in
Catherine
businesses?
asked, yes, can you dob in businesses to provide?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, you can. Very much like you can do the EPA's "Don't Be a Tosser" campaign, or any of those. Absolutely.
Yep. Just check. Okay, so I actually run the compliance and enforcement. So we often help governments with this in other states. New South Wales EPA will be the one enforcing this. But we find a substantial amount of stuff reported that isn't banned. So remember, go check what's banned first, because that would save government time. So that cups and coffee cups are not banned in this round, not for 2 years. Don't report those. But if in doubt, you can report a suspected business and they'll be investigated and things like that. Yeah, I'm working with New South Wales Government and New South Wales EPA, and I've suggested a few techniques about, so people can do it anonymously. We do find staff want to kind of maybe dob in their business, but it's mostly customers. And I think that's really important to note is I think businesses need to think about this, not just, oh, this is a ban being forced on me. And while we find a lot of businesses are really positive about it, your customers really do actually want this, even though they might kind of whinge and complain about some inconveniences. And we find the impact on your brand could be much worse if you're found to be non-compliant than any fine, because customers will make it known. So yes, you can dial them in. Have a look at that website. But if uncertain, just contact us and we'll make sure the New South Wales government knows about it.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just trying to. So another question is, will other plastics like poly bags be phased out in the near future, or is this not on the agenda?
Do you mean polyester?
I think she must be the polyester weave, doesn't she?
Well, there's multiple polyester and polymer. Okay, so there's many things, and Rosie might like to just add something in there. But so polyester fabric bags are more reusable. You might also be talking things like cryovac and soft plastic kind of stuff that we have in packaging and everything like that. That's tends to be like PVC and LDP and P. It's all very polyethylene based. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of the national packaging target. So most businesses already have a lot of things on their radar that they're phasing out by 2025. So if you're not aware of the national packaging targets, the target is to be 100% reusable, all packaging to be 100% reusable, compostable, or recyclable by 2025. Very big goal for 2.5 years away. So if you're not aware of those, it is a voluntary target, and I think some industries are finding it easier than others, but there's a whole heap of resources. That's the new Australasian recycling label, if people aren't aware of that one. But I think a lot of the things that are going on are not necessarily that they need to be banned. There's so much proactive stuff. Ban doesn't have to be the trigger point for everything, especially if consumer behaviour changes. We'd like it to not be it's a very costly exercise for government too. But Rosie, I'm not sure if you wanted to clarify.
Well, she's just come back with poly bags of plastic, usually resealable. So I think we're talking about the Ziploc type.
Ziploc kind of bags.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they're not included if they don't have a handle.
Yeah.
So it's all about if they're not used to carry goods, but that would be considered more a produce bag or packaging. So you see that sometimes in nuts. You can kind of serve yourself nuts in some of the supermarkets. And they're also used for kids' lunches. You can buy them on the supermarket shelves. Quite reusable, very washable, and very recyclable too. So if you're not the target of government at the moment. Produce bags and things like that will be in the future, but like I said, very big food safety concerns to work through. So I hope that's answered that, Rosie. I'm not sure. But reach out if you want. If I'm not talking about the ones that you're talking about.
And I think that's the key is that you've got your Q&A sessions that are happening every once a month. BBP, and I guess this kind of goes to the next slide actually of my talk. So we've got the very comprehensive website that that you've helped in collaboration with New South Wales Government to put up with a wealth of information for businesses. You've also got your hotline that you can answer. And as you said, you've got a million photos of foodware items, all kinds of different items that, is this going to be banned? Is that not going to be banned? Us in this industry, my whole phone's full of waste and like plastic items and other items. So, you know, there's no silly questions. Just go and ask them if there's any query about what you've that you might have and you're not sure. Ask. And especially, I mean, the reason we're trying to make you, more than anything, make you aware of these now is that they are not buying a large stock item of something that potentially could be banned. So prior to you purchasing and procuring these items now, check, ask your suppliers as well, make sure that they're telling you the right, you know, that they're informed as well.
And happy if people want to hit me up, if yes, the current ban, but if you are looking for advice about a national strategy moving forward and it's not in this ban, I'm happy for you to also reach out and see if you're being sold a lemon too, because that's what I'm worried about too, is there's just so much greenwashing out there. Please don't believe the claims. And so we've seen thousands of products. I can spot them a mile away. And if it's claiming something and doesn't have an official certification, just hit us up. Hit us up. We'll tell you we've seen everything from Australia, New Zealand, Europe. We work with all of the state governments, so we know where each is kind of thinking. But yeah. So beyond the ban, we can kind of, but we just can't give you certain black and white answers of yes, this will be and won't be banned, but we can tell you where to potentially head. Yeah.
There's no more questions. Oh, hang on. There's one more that's come through. There's one about balloons.
Yeah, balloons are definitely on the radar of most governments. I believe New South Wales is reviewing this. We, as the NRA, we support a ban on balloon releases. We do think there are valid, you know, I think most consumers use balloons responsibly, dispose of them responsibly. However, we would support balloon releases being banned, but I think that's something for government and councils to work out, because it very much involve council probably having to notice that kind of enforcement, very hard to enforce. So WA is banning balloon releases as of this year, and I'm seeing a couple of councils and things like that that are banning that. But balloons themselves, I think we'd break a million children's hearts if we took away balloons overnight. But I won't say never. I think with it, I'm definitely seeing work being done in Europe and the US on new forms of compostable items, but really we don't want to settle for commercially compostable, and you shouldn't either. Because it still has to go to a special facility and be heated to 70 degrees Celsius, has to have heat and pressure and microbes applied. So please don't believe commercially compostable. We need it to be home compostable for it to have any kind of environment impact. So PPE, yes, but it's something that most governments are not going to be taking action on as a ban. So the masks and things like that. But I do see a lot in the industry space who want to be proactive in this and are trying to figure out what are we going to do with health and everything like that. I know the vitamin and like medicine manufacturers are trying to find what plastic is very good because it's very inert in that it doesn't leach anything. Paper leaches stuff over time, sugarcane, all those kind of things. So tricky one, but just seeing so much innovation. So I'm not sure, Ali, you guys might have heard more in the PPE space. But please do know that the ban does apply to hospitals and health businesses and everything like that.
Yep,
so,
it applies to councils, it applies to any office. Yep, so the same rules apply to any office space. If you're having a party and you're using these items, you know, any kind of networking event or anything within a business environment or sort of community, exporting, Meals on Wheels. I'm trying to think of the types of
all of them.
Rotary clubs.
The only time you can use these is in your own home.
Yeah.
Like a domestic party, like that you're inviting your friends to and stuff like that. I don't think the government's going to be knocking on your door and checking your drawers.
No.
And I don't think they're going to be, their first target is not going to be every little business event, you know, that you've got in your meeting room. So probably best to just use them up, take them home. But anything you're supplying to the public or another business or another client, yeah, and big scale community fundraising events and things like that. And I would say those events, actually, you have very different opportunities, some really great opportunities. You are actually probably the ones who can play in the reusable and compostable space first. So reusable in events is a great idea. But compostable actually can be an option for you too, because you've got a closed loop. The packaging isn't walking out of there like a typical retail environment. So I'm seeing some of the food and wine festivals and things like that go to that.
So for those who came to our networking event recently, we had a company called Reusey, who was a reusable cup system, who's able to have reusable plates as well, and compostable organic cutlery. So he was able to just take it all. So all the food waste and the cutlery was able to be composted by himself, processed, and then the plates and cups all dishwashed back for reuse. So there are lots of companies out there now coming out to, you know, Goblet, trying to think of some others, but that you can start looking into. And those, you know, they're on our website. We provide information on that. Also, again, speak to your program managers if you'd like to sort of come up with some extra ideas on that. We've got one final question about educating the public. Will any of the major retailers be releasing comms to inform their customers of the changes and alternatives? Thinking Coles and Woolies and their huge databases, this would help a lot.
Most of them will do some kind of communication, probably to some of the supermarkets. This is now getting to be old news. They've already done this in South Australia, ACT and Queensland, and WA will be kicking in before New South Wales. So you should see this on a national level. You'll see different things happening. It just, unfortunately, they can't do a national campaign because it's state-based. But you will definitely see probably things outside of a lot of retailers that are still yet to change. Mostly Coles and Woolies, I'm pretty sure, are mostly already compliant in New South Wales, if not completely. So most of your major supermarkets are not the ones affected by this because they changed to reusable bags years ago. The problem really is usually faced by small food takeaway, because unfortunately customers are really bad at remembering their reusable bags for other situations. They're really good at remembering it for the supermarket. We all need to get a lot better with takeaway food, fashion, discount stores. When you leave the house, your local news agent, they are all impacted by this in the same way, but people tend to just think of supermarkets, and they're pretty right. They did this, they've been doing this nationally for a while. So anything you can do to help small little food businesses, and I also mentioned like all the major fast food and kind of quick service restaurants like McDonald's and KFC and Subway, they all did this quite a while ago. So if you're looking for where the industry's heading, you probably should be looking at those. They have massive sustainability plans. Those kind of businesses are 5 years in advance in the technology that we see them working on and innovations and their commitment to sustainability. But what we really need to do is help all the small businesses along, and they can get the same solutions. So Grant also asked about Uber Eats. It's really the restaurant, the restaurant or merchant that is responsible for providing the bag, but it's because it's technically their transaction, and it would be like charging the delivery. You can't really charge the truck that was delivering banned goods to someone. They're just a delivery driver. So it would be the business that the Uber Eats is delivering for that would be responsible.
Okay, so just to back on the educational side for the public, that I know that there is more of a campaign coming. They're just working out where.
From the government.
Yeah, from the government, from New South Wales government. it should be coming out fairly soon, as with, you know, on the sides of bus stops. And I know that they're looking at all the infrastructure that they currently own to try and work out where best place information about this, to make sure that everyone is, you know, the customers is aware. So it's not, hopefully it won't just be you as the businesses having to try and educate the customer. The customer will already be you know, knowledgeable about this and not be asking you the million of questions. But as Ebony has already said, there are resources on their website that you can download and print, and to be able to provide that information as well to your customers. And again, we will be putting on, you know, I think you'll start seeing information about this more and more, you know, everywhere. Where did I see urban concrete playground? I think I've just been seeing it everywhere, like in all kinds of different socials at the moment. I'm starting to see this information being disseminated, which, you know, only a couple of months ago it wasn't. So fingers crossed, by June, it's not going to be new news to your customers, and they will be already trying to find their own solutions. And you, hopefully, with the information from here, will be able to find your solutions as well, if you do need to swap out for whatever product you've got for the plastic bag. And again, reach out to any of us about the foodware items as well come November. I think that's it. And I just wanted to say again, thank you, Ebony, for giving up your time, and thank you everyone else for coming and listening. This, as I said, this has been recorded, and so this webinar, the talk will be shared through our website and shared to all of you. And Ebony has kindly also offered to share her slides, so those will also be going out to you in a separate document. And look forward to hearing from you all very soon. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.